Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. For those who are new, welcome. My name is Monica. In today's video, I am going to be recommending you some small town romances that have suspense in them. So I love a good suspense, romantic suspense, and these four that I'm going to talk about. I'm not talking about Catherine Cowles because I talk about her all the time. I'm not talking about Claire Kingsley because I talk about her all the time, but you need to go check their stuff out. So I'm going to talk about four that I haven't really touched on a lot lately, so you get some fresh recommendations that you can check out. The first book I'm recommending to you, well, it's the whole series, but the first one is The Girl in the Mist by Kristen Ashley. This one, so it has, let me look here so I'm getting the names right. So that's the first one. The second one is The Girl in the Woods. Then the third is The Woman by the Lake, and the fourth just came out. I've yet to listen to it, but I'm going to, is The Woman Left Behind. So in A Girl in the Mist, Delphine LaRue is a renowned author. She has a whole backstory that's really interesting. She moves to the small town because she needs a new place to be, simply because a crazed fan had gone over the deep end and she was not feeling safe where she was. So she moved to a small town because it's private, it's secluded, and nothing bad has really ever happened there. And the town is called Misted Pines. When she gets there and a local girl goes missing, however, the town's really not up to trying to find out what happened to this girl. So there's a whole backstory to what happened with Sleepy Town. So in walks our hero, Cade Buchanan. So Delphine is like 53 years old and Cade is around her age. So these are older hero and heroines. So they had a maturity level about them that was really appreciated. Anyway, so Cade, he's FBI. I believe he was a profiler. It's been a while since I've read this. In a sense, lived nearby. And so he had his own thing that happened to him, and that's why he moved to this small town. He ends up helping to investigate the missing girl, and her property where she's at, Delphine, there's some connection there, and that's all I'm going to say. I don't want to give more away, but I will say this. The maturity level is really, you can tell these characters are mature, not just by the age given, but the way they communicated, the way they reacted and acted. I really enjoyed Delphine's character. She was very uniquely written, and Cade is very much kind of like the 90s hero. So I mean, I didn't mind him. I really liked him. I thought he was a really well-rounded character with a decent motivations. I enjoyed this series. I enjoyed the small town aspect to this series, and I can't wait to read the last one in this series because it's good. So next books I want to talk to you about is actually two books in one mystery. There's four other books in those series that continues on, but with different parts, different mysteries and stuff. But the first one, or Suspense Plus, the first one is, though, that you should read is, and you do need to read them in order, is Steel King by Devney Perry. This was book one in her Clifton Forge series. And we have our heroine, Bryce. She just moves back to a small town where her parents are at to help run the local paper. She had some stuff. She was a journalist in Seattle. We see her in earlier Devney Perry books. However, she needed some time away because of something that happened in the book that we saw her in. When she goes home, there's a murder that happens at a motel. And Dash, who works at the Clifton Garage, he's a former MC president of a biker club that is now disbanded. His dad was also the club president as well before he stepped aside so his son could take over, because they needed to disband because of stuff. I'm not going to explain exactly what the stuff is, but his father, Draven Slater, is accused of murdering this woman in a hotel, and it looks like, all intents and purpose, he did it. I mean, his knife was found to have her DNA on it. There is a whole thing. In his background as a motorcycle president, it is not unfathomable that he would do something like this. However, everyone who knows him knows he would have never done this. So Bryce now has a story she wants to sink her teeth into. So she starts investigating Draven. And she goes to the Clifton Forge garage. She meets Dash. Dash does not like her because he knows that she is out to nail her father for this crime, and he believes that his father didn't do it. So they start investigating together to find out who actually killed this woman in the motel. And they are really attracted to each other. And I mean, it's definitely hate to love because they both have opposite agendas and they do things to each other kind of that's petty and kind of pisses each other off. But we're trying to find out who killed Amina Daly. They start working together for different reasons and to look for a different outcome. And they start a sexual affair, and by the end, she's like, okay, I realize something else is going on and it's not Draven. So we're trying to figure out who actually killed Amina Daly. And I really liked how this ended. It ended on a cliffhanger, and so you have to go directly to Raven Knight. It literally starts where Steel King ended. So Raven Knight, I think people like Raven Knight more, but I like them both equally. So Raven Knight starts with Genevieve Daly. She's in town to take care of her mother's body and trying to get her mother's affairs in order. Well, she sees something, so she goes to Clifton Forge in Steel King. So this happens in Steel King. And she ends up hooking up with Bryce and trying to figure out exactly what happened to her mother. So something happens with Genevieve and Bryce at the end of Steel King. That's basically the match that lights this entire second half of this mystery, which is Raven Knight. Genevieve, who is studying to become a lawyer, but she works as a paralegal, so she has to have an alibi or keep the person safe. So she ends up marrying this guy who tried to help her, and he works at the Clifton Forge garage, and his name is Isaiah. And so this starts off as marriage of convenience. At this point, we know something is up. We know that someone is out to get them, not just Bryce and Dash at this point, but also Genevieve. And something happened on the mountain that forced Isaiah and Genevieve to get married to protect themselves. And so we find this forced proximity where they're living over the Clifton Forge garage, trying to save their lives basically, while figuring out who killed her mother and trying not to tick off a rival MC in the process because they were on that mountain when this thing happened. And that's all I'm going to say because you need to read this. I don't want to spoil the whole thing for you. It is fantastic. If you haven't read it, I highly, highly recommend that you read this. The rest of the series is fantastic as well. My personal favorites are these two. And then I really loved Fallen Gesture, and I really love Ten Queen. So the first two and the last two are my favorites in the series. So moving on to another recommendation from another author. This is Gunner by Dr. Rebecca Sharp. This is book 3 in the Reynolds Protective series. You don't need to read all these books in order. They are fine to read individually. This one is about Della and Gunner. So Della and Gunner have a one-night stand on spring break. They don't really know who each other are. They have their fling. She leaves and he goes back home to Wyoming. And then Della finds out that she's pregnant but doesn't know how to get in touch with Gunner. Her father is a very, very wealthy man who owns hotels all over the United States. So she goes to Wyoming, to the small town, because she is 5 months pregnant at this point. And she's doing this because she needs a safer place to be. She needs something to do as well, because she's trying to prove to her father that she is an asset. So she goes to fix up this hotel and to make it more profitable than it has been. So she goes there. And as soon as she walks off the plane, she sees Gunner. Gunner is hired as her personal security. He does not know that Della is the girl he spent time with in spring break. And he didn't know that she was pregnant until she literally walked off the plane. He's like, oh my gosh. So that was kind of a big shock for reuniting. Anyhow, so they're at this hotel. She's trying to fix it up. He's trying to protect her, right? But someone is trying to stop this hotel from being upgraded, trying to stop all the renovations, trying to stop what she's doing. And they are putting her, the baby, in danger by doing this because they will stop at nothing to stop what's going on in this hotel. to keep the hotel from being profitable. And so we don't know who's sabotaging everything and basically nearly hurting Della a few times. So Gunnar, as they are in forced proximity to each other because this is forced proximity because he's the bodyguard, they end up giving back into the attraction that they had 5 months ago that's still there, and he still wants to be a part of this child's life. However, he has to find out who's trying to hurt her and trying to sabotage the hotel, because if she dies, his child dies, and he falls in love with Della. It is fantastic. I highly recommend this book. I liked the whole entire series, but this is my favorite book in the series. So the last book I want to talk about, which I absolutely loved, was Bourbon and Secret. This is the second book in the Bourbon Boys series. You can read Bourbon Lies first, and it's actually out on audio, so if you wanted to take it out on audio, you absolutely can. So the world that was developed was flawless. The cast of characters were really enthralling. So Faye is a very strong heroine. If you haven't noticed, all the heroines that I've talked about in this video are extremely strong. Faye was in this small town 4 years ago, and she blackmailed Lincoln Fox, who was our hero, when right before she left. She comes back and works as a burlesque dancer / private investigator to figure out exactly what happened in this tragedy. So now she's back in town and working as a private investigator for a case, but also trying to repair the damage that happened to her relationship with her sister. And then, yeah, everything kind of starts to go from there. There is a lot of suspense in this book, but there's a lot more romance in this book. So this one is less of a suspense and more of a romance. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the world that Victoria Wilder built. I really liked our heroine. I thought she was incredibly intuitive for the most part. The hero, Lincoln, he was a great father. He was a very overprotective father, and for a very good reason. You have to read the book to understand the reason. But I do recommend this one. I think it is a really good one. Bourbon and Lies was a really good one as well. So if you want to start with Bourbon and Lies, it follows the same brothers, but these read as standalones, so they're interconnected. So that one I would recommend as well. Anyway, so those are 4 small town romantic suspenses that I think you guys should pick up. Even if you pick up just one of the books, let me know which one you want to pick up, or if you've read them, let me know down below. And if you have any recommendations for me for small town romantic suspense, let me know down below. And I will be coming up soon with a small town non-romantic suspense, so just regular small town romances. I'll come up with that one next month. But I was noticing that when I was trying to find books for both of them, I literally had an equal list of ones with suspense and one without suspense. So if you made it this far in this video and you want to let me know that you're here, please leave me if they have a whiskey or a cup with liquid in it, leave me that. I think they have a whiskey or a bourbon. They might have a bourbon emoji. If they do, leave that. And until next time, my friends, happy reading.